What is happening out there, Rotoscouts baseball fans? Happy Monday, gang. Good to see you. A couple minutes late getting started. Just had to catch up a few lineups, a couple of my notes in the pitching section, but all is well. Late getting started in general, though. 4:30 on a 10-gamer. Not ideal. Typically, we're going to be launching this somewhere, hopefully 3 o'clock to 4 o'clock, some days after around 4 o'clock, but I don't want to trickle too many days into the 4 o'clock hour because that cuts us into other shows. It also just cuts down the time we got to talk, especially when NBA is going on. I got to get us out of here by like 6 o'clock, 6:15-ish, so that I can stay on top of NBA changes. But I wanted to make sure we jam through all of these games. Really interesting looking 10-gamer today. Should be a fun one. A lot of teams on the back end of their rotations. We've got our first 10-run total of the day. It's not even April yet, of the year rather, and it's not even April yet. Monster total out in Chicago for the Cubs game. Really, really interesting looking one between some of the shaky pitching. Just because some of the teams are most of the teams are at the back end of the rotation. It's not all bad. There are some good pitching options. We'll go through them, but definitely leaning more hitting oriented on this slate. We'll take a quick look at the run board here as everybody trickles in. Cujo's here. Good afternoon, buddy. Ugly 8 game. Pink hand wave back at you, buddy. Good day back to you, Rabbit Hole. Good to see you. Let's crush that 50K on DK. Yeah, that sounds like a good plan, huh? Ducking is here. Good to see everybody. Apologies for the late start. That's why you got to subscribe to the channel, get notifications for when shows go live. Hit the like button as we get started, too. That does help. Scrolling across the bottom of your screen there, you'll see promo code OD26 is still live and engaged. $15 first month on a monthly or a $4 first week on a weekly. It's basically 50 cents a day for those. Everything Rotoscouts is under $1 a day at all times, and that gives you access to everything that hits that website. So that includes all the baseball stuff we're about to go through, projections, pitching projections, hitter projections, the home run picks, power index, stack rankings. You guys know the drill. It also includes NHL projections and NBA projections, which are both live on the site right now for tonight's decent-looking slates. The NBA is a total mess. Only another 2-3 weeks till the end of the NBA season. Counting the days. Can't wait till the playoffs. Then I can just put stuff up. Kind of locked in. Anyway, let's talk baseball. That's why we're here. So you can see that Cubs total kind of poking its head above ground there and just staring at us. 10-run total in Chicago. The wind is blowing out. They've got a terrible pitcher on the mound for the Angels, or a targetable pitcher anyway. So key spot there. Home run pick of the day. I couldn't resist coming out of that game. I wanted to use a less popular guy than I probably did in the long run, but I just couldn't resist the guy I took. Just one of my guys. He's off to a hot start too, so we'll get to that. But starting off at the top, Rockies low total of the day at just 3.06 implied runs. Pretty ugly spot for the Colorado Rockies. They're going against Cody Ponce, who is in the show and carrying some expectations. He was a buzzy fantasy pick in drafts this season. 5.05 total for his Blue Jays behind him. Looks like a great spot to get to some Blue Jays. They're showing some power upside. Obviously, plenty of runs with that 1 of 3 5+ implied totals. And they're going up against Tomo Sugano, which is the reason for all of that. Just kind of a dead-in-the-water pitcher here for the Rockies. The only thing he's really got, I got like a hair dangling down from the side of this hat in front of my eyes. I think I got it. The only thing Sugano's got going for him here is that he's not pitching in Coors Field tonight, but total mess of a spot. The Athletics, the Braves, that's a interesting game on both sides. 4.26 implied total for the A's, 4.83 implied total for the Braves. Models liking the A's a little bit more than that against Bryce Elder, and the Braves maybe a little bit less than that against a more talented Jacob Lopez. So not sure I totally agree with Vegas on this one. I think Lopez, usable, just got to get through that Braves power. They're obviously a good team and off to an okay start, but Lopez is a talented guy. Elder's just kind of an innings eater. He's all right, but I love those A's bats. They're showing some power today, so I think that's a spot we can at least use, let alone focus on. The Rays, just a 3.58 implied total for them. Not a good looking spot. They're going up against lefty Kyle Harrison, who is in his fourth new home here in Milwaukee. He was part of that trade that brought Caleb Durbin over to the Red Sox. Kid's a top prospect, came up as a top prospect, has been decent, not great so far in the show, but a really good looking spot for him, keeping the Rays potential down there. 4.50, 4.51 implied total for his Brewers. They're going up against Nick Martinez. That looks like a mid-board kind of a spot. The Brewers, I think, as we've talked about already, always going to be putting up better totals and looking and scoring more runs than maybe the sum of their parts will look like in advance, just because they don't have that big power bat. They don't have those star players. They're just a collection of good players up and down. But that is a very good lineup. They've scored a bunch of runs already this season. The Angels on the other side of that Cubbies game are pulling a 4.33 implied total. They've been super interesting, hitting the ball real hard. Everybody's hitting for power so far in that one. The thing about that is I think we're going to want to get to some Edward Cabrera. He is our top projected pitcher of the day coming out of the Cubs. It is a danger spot, though. There are some, definitely, again, power there and 4+ implied total, mid-4s implied total on the other side. Not a safe spot, but Cabrera is very, very talented. And then the Cubbies are going up against Ryan Johnson, who is pushing a 5.79 implied total in their direction. The Mets just under a 5 total, 4.95. That also looks like a pretty decent spot going up against Kyle Leahy. I think we have a usable Clay Holmes on the mound for the Mets going up against the Cards, a 4.16 implied total. Maybe not ideal. That's kind of the nature of the beast with Clay. He might give up 4 runs, not come away with a ton of strikeouts, but give you 5+ competent innings and a shot at a win bonus on a slate with light pitching. And he's going up against a weakish young Cardinals lineup. I think that's a spot he can handle fairly well. Red Sox at the Astros, 4.40 implied total for the Red Sox. They're going up against Lance McCullers Jr. or whatever's left of them. Ranger Suarez on the mound, another interesting one for the Red Sox. He's got the Astros checked down at 4.19 implied runs, but that's not a bad team against lefties. So it's an interesting one. I think Ranger is usable, but not really a pitcher I love getting to, not really a pitcher I trust historically. It's kind of a short slate. Interesting spot for Ryan Weathers. It's going to be a spot there where we're going to be watching him early, see what he's got in the regular season. Hopefully, knock on wood, as a Yankees fan, the biggest thing we're counting on or we need from him is health. He's always been very talented. He's got a nasty slider. He's got a 100-mile-an-hour fastball. Needs to find more movement, more whiff on the fastball. But when he's on, he is nasty. Just depends on whether he finds it, puts it all together this year. He's been a buzzy sleeper kind of a pick going into each of the last 2 or 3 seasons. This year, a little bit of bloom has come off of that, so maybe post-hype kind of a spot. Just going up against a good Mariners lineup, a pitcher-friendly park, not a bad spot, sub-4 implied total for the Mariners. And then what remains of Luis Castillo is on the mound for the Mariners. He had a mediocre season last year, pretty mediocre spring so far. Just going up against a deadly good Yankees lineup, but only a 4.101 implied total. Castillo getting a little bit of respect for his body of work in Vegas. Yanks showing a little bit more than that in the model, though. They're pulling out top projections. Just difficult to suppress them with all the good bats in that lineup. The Giants going up against Walker Buehler, and the Padres going up against Landon Roop. Good young pitcher in Roop, 4.37 implied total for the Pods, but their power is being cut down by Roop's ability to keep the ball down somewhat. So we're going to take a look at that spot as far as what impact that might have on the Padres upside for big DFS scoring events. On the other side, Giants just kind of mid-board, 4.21 implied total against Buehler. Don't expect much out of Buehler, 6+ ERA over 4 spring starts. Did give us 5 innings in the second one, though. So maybe has 5 innings in the tank and gives up 4 or 5 runs. Not a good spot. Justin Verlander against Michael Soroka out in the desert. I like Soroka, even though he's going up against a really tough Tigers lineup that's got some good lefties, and all those lefties are showing power, which is one thing that he bounces around with. Soroka's just decent. He had a good strikeout rate last year. Underrated is the wrong word to use of it. Serviceable year last year. Former very highly regarded righty, kind of finding his way, but I just something about that spot. He's a 2-start starter this week. I threw him into the lineup. The next one's against Atlanta. Not all that much better, but there are a ton of strikeouts available in that Tigers lineup. He is a decent strikeout pitcher. If he finds his way to suppressing the offense, suppressing the power a little bit, I think that could be a sneaky decent spot. And then we round things out with, it's Verlander on the mound. Bouncy spring for him as well. 6, almost a 7 ERA over his 4 starts. Did not complete 5 innings, 4 2/3 in each of his last 2, though. 5 innings probably about it against a decent Arizona lineup, pulling a 4.64 implied total. I'd rather have Diamondbacks bats. And then the final game, Parker Messick for the Guardians against Roki Sasaki. Sasaki ineffective for most of last year, then kind of caught fire out of the pen late. Bad spring so far. He has made 4 starts through 8 2/3, did not pitch more than 3 1/3. That was in his 3rd of 4 spring starts. Had a 15+ ERA in that sample. So shaky. I was hoping that River Ryan would have this spot in the rotation. Dodgers against Parker Messick. Messick, really interesting pitching prospect for the Guardians. Finished last year in the show. Had a very good handful of games in the show. Spring was all right. Made 5 starts. What I'm interested in is looks pretty stretched out. 5 2/3 in his 4th spring start. 4 2/3, 4 2/3 on either game around that. So I think we get definitely a shot at, if he's going well, 5+. Maybe he locks a 6th. But The downside is it's the Dodgers and they're pulling a 5-2-1 implied total. So it doesn't look like a good spot. He's pulling a low 20s projection on the FanDuel scale. So not one we're really chasing, I don't think, but it wouldn't stun me if Parker Messick had a better than this level kind of a start on our starters board here. As mentioned, though, kind of an ugly slate. ECAB up at the top, 95.85. Not a bad price on either side. Seems fair. It's got good strikeout stuff. The Cubbies are, I was reading, really working with him on using the fastball more as a setup pitch, not relying on the fastball, relying on the secondary stuff because they're better offerings. That's where he gets his quality from. So they're really expecting him. He's a buzzy upside guy this year, and it's a good spot. The Angels, for all the power and all the upside that they can bring, on a bad day, that's a team full of strikeout that does not come through for a lot of average. So that's a decent spot too. Cody Ponce, we will see what it looks like. 7,600 seems like a great price on DraftKings for that spot against the Rockies. Rockies on the road against the righties, just a thing for a decade now. Definitely a spot to chase. And we're going to see how the Ponce thing translates. 9,200 on FanDuel does feel pricey, but it is, again, against the Rockies, and it's the second best starter on the board, clearing the other guys by 2 points. I'd rather probably take that shot, even though he's going to be popular, than target the Astros with Ranger Suarez. Again, a pitcher I don't really love getting to, don't really fully trust, and 10-6 against a team that is good against lefties doesn't feel great. Luis Castillo with the Yankees showing quality. Only a mid-20s projection, FanDuel 13s. There's not a lot of daylight in either of those sites between Castillo and any of these guys down to here. So you're really not buying all that much for 10-2 on FanDuel, 8,300. That's a big price bump. What's the projection difference between him and any of the guys I just highlighted here? And then look at the massive price differences between those guys. You don't have to go up against the Yankees. This seems like an easy spot to get by, but I think that's a fair projection on Castillo all the same. There's Soroka. Really interesting spot. Again, strikeout upside. I think it's a fair mark to have him on for around a 5-inning start. Could go a little bit north of that if he does find the Ks and doesn't get destroyed by some of the lefty power. But again, Kerry Carpenter, Riley Green, both those guys are well over the magic number for home run upside. So there is some downside and some risk there with Soroka from the mid-board. Jacob Lopez, just a good Atlanta lineup on the other side, but no issues with it. Like I mentioned, I like him a little bit better, I think, than the Vegas line does. Upper 20s, not bad on either side for the price. 81.76, a little bit of strikeout stuff there. Ryan Weathers, total wild card. Not sure what we're going to be dealing with. Probably not going to get a ton of depth, especially with the state of the Yankees rotation. 6,300 though, he could probably pay that off for you on DraftKings, especially because you're not worried about the quality start. 8,000 is not expensive on FanDuel, but I don't know that I want to target that Mariners lineup with. I'd rather probably take $7,000 Kyle Harrison against the Rays if I'm doing that for a point less. Harrison looks good on both sides. Clay Holmes, again, I think that's a fair spot for Clay Holmes. So 93, I don't object to it. 82, I'd rather pay that price, obviously, but that's a decent mid-board option that probably won't be popular enough for his just talent, experience, et cetera, on a slate like today. Health. Landon Roop, an effective young starter, 82.74 works. Bryce Elder, always playable, 86.65, especially at that 6,500 as an SP2. That's especially playable on the DraftKings slate. So you can definitely look into that one. Elder, yeah, 5 innings in his fourth start in the spring. Had only gone 3 and 3 1/3, but then bounced up to 5 in the last start. So should be at least enough for 5 innings, and that's what that projection is. Sasaki, I really don't trust, but that's a targetable enough lineup in Cleveland. So maybe you could throw some darts at that. I do think that one, though, if you get an effective handful of innings, probably going to be on the shorter side. Again, did not surpass 3 1/3. So probably not going to get to 5 innings. For the 72, maybe you throw a dart or two. For the 8,000, lesser chance at a win. Bunch of guys above them look a little bit better. McCullers, really no faith. Low-end projection, mix and match option. 99 for Parker Messick is not completely unfair, I guess. But against the Dodgers on this slate, first start for the rookie of the season, it's just a bad spot for that money on FanDuel. 78 is a lot more fair and a lot more playable. So I think Messick, at least loosely on the board on DraftKings, and again, is stretched out. So I think if all goes well, 5 pitching into the 6th is not crazy. It's going to depend on where he's at in the lineup and so on and so forth. And if they get 5 good innings and they happen to be close or winning against the world champs, then maybe they pull them anyway. But there's at least a shot there. But that FanDuel price is weird for this slate. Justin Verlander, nah, especially not at 9,000. FanDuel 77, fine. Mix and match your way to it on DraftKings if you want it. Ryan Johnson against that elite-looking Cub spot, no thank you. Martinez, Buehler, Leahy, and Sugano are all pretty hard nose. That cheap end at the bottom there, not really appealing. You do have good cheap options through the middle here, or at least playable ones. Especially that one could be potentially outrageously good on DraftKings at 63. Thanks, Brandon. Appreciate you, buddy. Monty Pritchett says, welcome back. Good afternoon. Be well this season. Best of luck. Don't throw acronyms at me. Thanks for the generosity. Anytime, buddy. Again, scrolling across the screen, promo code OD26 gets you a little bit of a discount on a month or a week. Start out, check things out behind the scenes. I'll pop a few things during the week up for free this year. Try and get today's home run picks are free. So if you spot that after you subscribe, apologies, but do need to promote this a little bit because like somebody said, like Brendan said, do deserve a little bit more viewership, a little bit more clicks and so on and so forth. Vin Fiore, stat diving like this for one-day slates does absolutely nothing, especially considering we've had about 4 games. This is MLB, not NBA, bud. That's why you don't see any of this year's stats on the screen, Vito. First time? Thing that interests me about Ponce is whether the off-speed pitches that have looked much improved in the spring KBO get used more than the fastballs that got hit really hard this spring. I would expect as the season goes on and the arsenal loosens up a little bit, SMP, that would be the case. What's the arsenal going to look like? But he's going to need to have that fastball be effective to be at all effective in the show to set up the breaking pitches and everything, and the off-speed pitches rather. So if the fastball's not effective, I don't expect it to translate. We've seen guys stumble and fall coming in the KBO, so out of the KBO. Vito, ask me anything about baseball, man. Welcome to the show. Happy you're here. Maybe wait until we even start talking to start criticizing the show. You don't know what you're about to hear. You don't know what I'm about to look at. These are last year's stats that you can see on the screen. I can only fit so much on the screen. You want to talk about the other few year stats? Another 3-year stats that are hidden back there since I've been doing this. I've been doing this a long time, man. Don't worry about me. And yes, that is how baseball works. You talk about previous year's stats because that's who these guys are. To your point, 4 games don't matter. You want to talk about 600 plate appearance samples and more. It's bizarre to criticize the show before it even got started, bud. Anywho, Colorado Rockies going up against the aforementioned Cody Ponce. So Ponce, no stats showing there on the screen, wasn't in the show last year. Has spent the last few seasons, it's been since 2022, went to NPB for 3 years, was okay in NPB for a couple of years, not even really. Mid-3s type ERA, very low strikeout rates. Popped in KBO, as somebody mentioned in the chat. Age 31, this is not some kind of prospect that we're talking about. This is a journeyman right-hander at best. I do not expect a ton. I think he was getting overdrafted in fantasy drafts, but he did spike up to a 36.2% strikeout rate against a 5.9% Y. That's 30.3 K-minus strikeout rate last season in KBO. So there's something there. The pitches were effective in spring, which again does not matter at all. Put up a 0.66 ERA over 13 2/3, struck out 12 of 50 in 5 games against, to Vito's point here, guys are going to be bagging groceries, as we like to say, as we were saying last week. Did go 5 2/3 in his last start. That was against the Yankees spring squad. Faced 18 hitters in that sample. 5 strikeouts was his best game. Again, not expecting a lot, but he gets to face the Colorado Rockies with a 3-run implied total in his first start here. So there's a lot favoring his upside. Coming through the projection model as our second most highly projected pitcher based on his, again, Vito, the model works on his season-long projections through 5 different projection systems, all averaged out. Then based on in seasons past, if we have previous data, we work with that data. We massage it via the, how math works to come up with these projections. But He comes up as our second most highly projected pitcher of the day because it's such a bad lineup on the other side. Tomo Sugano, you just don't want. He's just bad. We're targeting him with Blue Jays bats there at over a 5-run total. 157 innings last year in 30 starts. He struck out 15.7%. Killer. Had a 4.64 ERA, a 4.70 xFIP. There's nothing there. So fire away with Blue Jays bats. On the Rockies side, mix and match options at best. You could choose to target Cody Ponce. It wouldn't shock me if he had a mediocre game, and there are a few playable bats on the Rockies at least. Up toward the top of the lineup, McCarthy's a mix and match outfielder, always has been. Bad year in 222 plate appearances last year. Not much to see there, but it is a leadoff spot that connects directly into the hitters that you would actually want from this team. Most notably, Hunter Goodman. Not a bad way to fill catcher at 4,000 on DraftKings. If you're just looking to bounce a one-off catcher. Second spot in the lineup buys him potentially an extra plate appearance. 11.90 in the home run model is a masher. He had 31 home runs last season, 359 WOBA, but did, as we pointed out, have only a 324 xWOBA under the surface last season. So dramatically overperformed, but we'll see how it comes through this year. He is probably the best hitter in this lineup right now. Willie Castro, a utility man, kind of a journeyman at this point in his career, but 2,800, 2,500, multi-position eligible, hitting third in this lineup. Hit 11 homers, stole 10 bases in an up and down season last year, just a 92 WRC plus. But he's been a lot better than that. Once we get to Coors Field, we'll talk a lot more enthusiastically about, I think, Willie, about Edward Julian at the bottom of this lineup. Right now, Willie's a mix and match guy, but he is cheap. He is hitting third. There is potential there. If you're going to this team, you definitely want to get to him in stacks. Ezequiel Tovar, probably the second best option as far as upside for counting stats. A little bit of home run power, a little bit of speed. Was terrible last year in 390. Did lower his strikeout rate from 28.8 last year, 2 years ago, to 25.1 last year. Doesn't draw walks. We're looking for him to put the ball in play. When he's hitting the ball hard, 9.3% barrel last year, but only a 38.9% hard hit. So there's some ups, there's some downs there. If he's managing whiffs, if he's hitting the ball hard, he can be an effective option for 34.28 hitting cleanup. Again, if you're going to this team, choosing to target ownership and popular and ownership on Cody Ponce, that is a reasonable option. And then it kind of cuts. TJ Rumfield, we looked at him the other day. There wasn't a ton to see there. He's cheap, 25-23, but I don't think I want to fill first base that way. Troy Johnston, last season, 277, 331, 420 is an okay slash line over just 120 plate appearances. Hit the ball squarely. He didn't really strike out that much. Mix and match option. Second guy in this lineup, though, above average WRC plus last year at 109. One of two guys in that lineup. Jordan Beck does have 2020 upside in the right season, 9.5% barrel last year, but another guy who finds the barrel but doesn't really generate enough regular hard hit. Also strikes out at nearly a 30% clip. Mix and match upside at best. Kyle Karros hasn't shown us anything. And then Edward Julian, I mentioned a lot of on-base potential, a lot of skills, and a little bit of power there that we've seen flash in years past. It's been a minute. Finding his way in Colorado, getting some regular opportunities in this lineup. Very, very cheap. I just wish he would climb the lineup a little bit more. We'll be looking in his direction more at Coors Field. On the Blue Jays side, Jesus Sanchez off to a great start. We were talking about him in Discord a little bit the other day. Monster upside for the cheap price at 31.27. This is a guy who has always hit the ball very hard. Look at those barrel and hard hit rates in comparison to Vladdy Guerrero right next to him, George Springer above him. Those are two very expensive players. That is a good one wedged in between them to help average that price down for the three-man. Now you're talking about 48.67, which is still expensive, but includes Vladdy at 6 and George Springer at 55 for that three-man on DK. So that's the power of averaging down the overall cost there. A lot of home run potential in Jesus Sanchez against a bad righty. Springer, off to an okay start, had an outrageous bounce-back season with 32 homers, 18 stolen bases, and it was real. 408 WOBA, 404 xWOBA last season. So a lot of quality. It's just a matter of, can he turn that miracle again? Can he defy age again this season? I'm betting against, but not all the way down to the basement. I think we get something in between his diminished season and what we saw last year. Call it the 280 range, 350 on base. A good, very, very good season. 20 plus homers probably in the cards, but I don't think it's as outrageous as last year was. Vladdy's a superstar, 6,300, 23 homers. The power was down a little bit last season. We talked about it, but plenty of quality still to be seen. 384 xWOBA, but there's plenty there. He is not diminished. It's just a little bit different maybe than what expectations were. Addison Barger hits the ball very hard. 21 home runs, off to a 0-for-8 start, I want to say, in this season for people who like just immediate results. But shaky start for Barger, but going to be regularly in this lineup. He hits the ball very hard. Had a mini breakout last year with 21 home runs, 211 ISO, 331 xWOBA. Alejandro Kirk, decent season last year. Mix and match quality catcher. You can one-off that as a $3,900 catcher against a terrible pitcher if you want, but he's going to be popular within this lineup and on DraftKings where you need the position. Varsho hit for power last season. 20 home runs and just 271 chances is tremendous. A lot of barrels. Not a lot of hard hit, not a lot of quality otherwise, only a 284 on base. Kaz Okamoto, import from the NPB as well. Don't have the stats in front of me, but we went through them the other day. That is a very good price on a guy who is excellent in NPB ball, drawing a 10 plus in the home run model as well. Noteworthy. That is a above the magic number mark for a guy that will be less owned than some of the other guys in this lineup. People know better. Ernie Clement, excellent utility option, 34,300. Solid season last year, 98 WRC plus. Doesn't really reflect the usefulness of Ernie Clement for what we're looking for here. Not a star, not a big upside piece, but a guy you can plug into a lineup, get a few points out of here and there. Andres Jimenez, a little bit less than that at just shortstop on DraftKings. Second base and shortstop, he's okay. This one would go Blue Jays bats, Cody Ponce, Rockies bats, Tomo Sugano. I wouldn't play Tomo Sugano, and I would be really limited on the Rockies bats, just looking to target Ponce if he's getting popular on your site of choice. Congratulations, Vito. Is one more GPPs than you can imagine. Not then, but then you can imagine. Congrats, man. We're like, why are you hostile? We'd be happy for you. Like, if you just came in here like, hey, I got these thoughts about it. It's a weird response, man. The Braves, 483 implied total. The A's, 426. Yeah, Jacob Lopez, decent pitcher. 28.3% strikeout rate over his 92 2/3 last season. The stuff is only mediocre. Slider's the only pitch that was above average rated by Stuff Plus, but a decent locator. That was above average location. Not going to blow hitters away. Does walk a little bit, trying to nitpick around the edges. 9.3% walk definitely needs to improve. But against that strikeout, that does leave him at 19.05 for K minus BB last year, which is adequate. That's not bad. 408 ERA, a 4.13 xFIP. Again, not an ace, but a guy who is effective enough to get through a DFS start for cheap here and there. 3.76 Sierra to back that point up is a better indicator of future ERA than xFIP even is. So was a little bit better on that note last season. But again, not a lights out pitcher, just an okay lefty at the back of a rotation. On the Braves side, Bryce Elder, 19.3% strikeout, 11.8 strikeout minus walk rate last season. Mix and match quality stuff, 90.26 by Stuff Plus. It's only a little bit of difference between the stuff. They both give up a little bit of power, 3.76 home run rate, 3.53 home run rates last season. Both a little bit of barrels. Elder keeps the ball down more effectively and has 8.5 degree average launch last year compared to the 21.8 degree that Jacob Lopez gave up. So he's a little bit more of a fly ball oriented pitcher. That does ding the Athletics upside for power a little bit, and it helps the Braves upside for power a little bit. You can see 3 guys above the magic number for home run upside for the Braves, 3 guys above it for the A's, but not quite to the level that you might otherwise expect against a pitcher like Bryce Elder in terms of not a heavy strikeout pitcher. Guy's going to allow some contact. Just a little ability to keep the ball down does maybe take the absolute top edge off the A's. But again, 4.26 playable total. Several guys we really like above the magic number, including Brent Rooker, who did not hit a home run for us yesterday, but we got one lurking. He's only 3,100. That is super cheap for that upside. 30 home runs again last season. Tremendous improvements year over year over the past 3 seasons in terms of strikeout rate, down to 22% last season. This guy struck out 32.7% just 2 years ago, 28.8 the year before that. Monster power, and that has not gone away in the improvements. So love the upside for Rooker. 5,000 fair on DraftKings, but it's not that $3,100 super cheap price on FanDuel. Tyler Soderstrom, 45.32, excellent piece. 9.16 in the home run model, a little bit lighter for power than the other 3 guys around him, but 25 home runs last year himself. Langalier's off to a ridiculous start. Maybe he will slash 277, 325, 536 again this year. I always just am looking for power out of Langoliers if we're going there. 48, everybody knows about him. He's not a secret. 38 on FanDuel, very expensive when you don't need to go to catcher, but you can one-off him at any spot at util at first base. you can treat him as though he's a power hitting first baseman, not worry about the catcher thing. And at 4,800 on DraftKings, it's a pricey catcher one-off to get to, but it's one of the better options given the home run marking and the spot in the lineup. Jacob Wilson, more a average on base, reset the table for guys like Lawrence Butler, Max Muncy. I got to fix that Max Muncy. It's a bane of my existence until they fix this. Did I not put him in the salaries? Thought I had. Oh, I know what it is. There we go. So Muncy, I had a home run the other day. Okay option. He did square the ball up a little bit last year, 10.1% barrel, but it didn't get him anywhere. Also struck out 30% of the time. So not really the ideal option, in my opinion. Jeff McNeil, kind of a slap hitter. He tried to hit for a little bit more power last season, hit 12 home runs, got on base at a 335 clip. I didn't like him when he was a slap hitting and on base option, but I think I liked him a little bit better at that point than I did as this caught in between guy down at the bottom of a lineup. He's just cheap. If you're going here, he's all right, but not a priority by any means. Carlos Cortez, 309, 323, 543 with a 132 WRC plus and just 99 plate appearances last year. We'll see where it goes, but had an interesting barrel, interesting hard hit rate, didn't really strike out, put the ball in play quite a bit with that walk rate. So maybe not a totally dead spot for some premium contact upside at the bottom. 2,200 in the outfield on FanDuel kind of works. On the Braves, Ronald Acuna, kind of a no-brainer if you're going in this direction. They are a very appealing stack today as well. It's one of the top stacks of the day, and they're pulling a big total of nearly 5 runs. Acuna's a huge part of that. 21 homers in limited action last season. We just need health. It's one of the best players in the universe when he's healthy. Drake Baldwin, killer power upside from the catcher. He's got hit 19 home runs last season. Very solid slash line as well. 125 WRC plus. One of the few Braves who was actually effective last year. Definitely a guy we can go to. And another catcher slotted into the 2 spot in the lineup. So we're getting a lot of plate appearances for catchers on this slate. So you can actually maybe erase some of what I said in the previous game and with Langoliers about just the prioritization of a catcher hitting second versus catcher hitting, say, 8th like Jonah Heim. But great spot to find a guy like Drake Baldwin. 11% barrel, 49.6% hard hit last season. Ozzie Albies, 2 terrible seasons in a row out of Albies, but we've seen a lot of quality in the past. We just want him to really be getting on base from that 3 spot ahead of our power bats like Matty Olson, like Austin Riley. Riley a down season 2 years in a row. Olson trending downward over the last year and change as well. Only 29 home runs out of him last season. 2 seasons below 20 out of Austin Riley after he was 30 plus for 4 years straight. Looking for both those guys to really get back on track. We had good barrel and hard hit rates out of both of them regardless of the output last season. So a lot of optimism for both those guys to continue mashing their way through this year. Love both spots, 49, 46, 35, 32. Work price-wise. Eli White, Mauricio Dubon, Jonah Heim, and Michael Harris down toward the bottom. Michael Harris is the guy you want. That's the semi-star caliber player who's seen some diminishment in the last couple seasons, most notably last year. The 268 on base is just atrocious last season. 289 WOBA against the 315 xWOBA. At least the xWOBA is quite a bit better, so he was underperforming, but even that is a sub-average xWOBA. So bad season last year out of Harris, bad season the season before. We know there's a lot of counting stat talent there. We know there's a fantasy asset there. Interesting wraparound if he can work his way to first base because he does have that speed. He does have the ability to get around the bases for these guys up here. But more mix and matchy down here with these guys than he is star and priority up with those guys. Braves bats. A's bats. Jacob Lopez, Bryce Elder. I'm curious what Vito with it's one game. So do you just blindly close your eyes and pick whoever when you win your GPPs? What would you base it on if you're not basing it on anything from this season, which you should not be, and you're not basing it on any of their career numbers and who these guys actually are, and that's how baseball works, and that's what you should be looking at. What do you base it on? Please say BVP. Please say BVP. Please say BVP. Anyway, continuing on while we wait for that answer. Rays 358 implied total. Brewers 451. Again, the Brew Crew, they've been really good. They score a ton of runs. You can see it through the heart of their lineup, though. They had Christian Yelich with a little outburst of power last year for 29. He's always hit the ball hard, former MVP. It's been below that total for multiple seasons in a row prior to last year's outburst. I don't know that he gets back above 25. I would like his chances to. Nobody else in this confirmed version of the Brewers lineup had more than 20 home runs last year. Not a power hitting bunch. What they do great is get on base and create havoc out there. They can run. They can get on base. Handful of these guys hit for average. We don't care about average all that much. But it's a bunch of guys who do hit the ball hard in terms of well-struck line drives, good contact, mid-40s and above across most of those star go-to guys in this lineup in terms of hard hit rate last season and in multiple seasons past. They're okay with strikeout, but they do strike out. They can strike out. But you're just looking for them to put the ball in play and, most importantly, get to first base and utilize that speed. Bunch of stolen bases. Everybody in this lineup can run a little bit. And they just score runs. So they are a stackable bunch, and it comes through more in the output a little bit than maybe it does in terms of their projectability as far as being a massive spot. So that total speaks volumes at 4.51. Nick Martinez, last season 4.45 ERA, 4.54 xFIP. This is a target rather than a pitcher you want to use for DFS. 17% strikeout rate. No, thank you. Kyle Harrison, on the other hand, just 35 2/3 last season in 6 starts, 24.4% strikeout rate. 2 seasons ago, did make 24 starts for the Giants, 124 1/3, 22.2% strikeout rate. Again, a little bit underwhelming when he first came up. That is a very effective season for a rookie lefty, don't get me wrong. But he came up a little buzzier than that. He had a lot of prospect pedigree coming through the system and for more strikeout rate. So we're looking for Harrison to take the next step forward here in this good developmental pitching program that the Brewers have. Love this as a landing spot for him. Love the upside of all these young Brewers starters this year. There's a potential gold mine of starting pitching talent coming through the Brewers in the next few years. So really like it. We're here now. So really like Harrison. I don't mind this spot at all against the Rays. There are enough strikeouts there. They're not a crazy good strikeout target with a couple guys who are quite good at limiting strikeouts. But there's fair, slightly above average targets through there. 22.9 is skewed a little bit by that 41.5 from Carson Williams. There's just 106 plate appearances. You want to do a little bit more fair. It's probably more like that, which would average out to 20.6, a little bit better than the average. But there are some guys that he can find strikeout against. You worry about Yandy Diaz a little bit in terms of limiting strikeout. Nick Fortes, fine. Chandler Simpson doesn't strike out, but he also doesn't hit the ball hard. He just puts the ball in play and is a speed burner. And then obviously the massive threat of Junior Caminero in the cleanup spot. But it's not a terrible spot for Kyle Harrison. So I think we get away with that at 79. Definitely at 7,000. I'm interested in investing on the FanDuel slate. Depth-wise, he did go 4 1/3, faced 19 hitters in his last start in the spring. Wasn't very good in the spring, but again, we don't really care. Just looking for the depth, looking for them to get the arm stretched out. And you like to see the 4 1/3 there. So I think 5, it's probably a lock at 5. You're probably not getting your quality start on FanDuel, but at 7,000, I don't think you need it necessarily on this slate. So you're probably okay there. If you're going against him, which also isn't a crazy idea, Rays won't be a popular team at all, and there is some quality here, most notably Junior. 14.62 in the home run model should not be ignored. Kyle Harrison gave up, medium barrels, a little bit of hard hit, a lot of exit velo last year, but it didn't burn him in terms of giving up home runs. But Junior can't win against anybody, and you get him on the prime side of this matchup. Yandy Diaz from the top, again, doesn't strike out, does draw walks, got on last year at a 366 clip. He's elite at getting on base, hits for average, has medium-grade power, 25 home runs last year, makes very good contact up at the plate. That's an excellent fantasy option, 47.32 on any side. Ryan Velotti in the 2 spot at 2,000 at 2,200. It's a mix and match player who we're looking for more for speed and some run scoring, but the correlated scoring in that spot shouldn't be ignored either. And the ability to just average down, you want to call it the average down 4-man on FanDuel, that brings it down to 31.25, and I'm getting Aranda in there. I'm getting Junior and Yandy Diaz in there. So that price is very, very helpful from a guy who will be directly correlated if he does anything out there. Aranda, tons of power and premium contact upside out of him. 14 homers last year, had an elite slash line. I don't know that he repeats that, but I like him to continue making some premium contact. Maybe we see 20-plus home runs out of him, a 146 WRC plus last season. Reason I'm optimistic, that Wobo and ex-Wobo were identical and elite 381, 382. Ben Williamson, Johnny DeLuca, Nick Fortes, Chandler Simpson, and Carson Williams are all, if you're stacking the team, fine. If you're not stacking the team, these are non-priority bats. There's no reason really to go to them. Best guy in that mix is Chandler Simpson, probably because he's going to hit for average and he's going to steal bases. 295, 326, 345 last season, stole 44 bags and 441 plate appearances. That is a elite stolen base option. who he did actually hit a spring home run, but may never actually hit an MLB home run. We'll see, or over the wall anyway. That was the first professional home run he ever hit, the one he hit in spring, including all his run through the minors and everything. But he is fast and good at stealing bases. Bryce Terang is also good at stealing bases. 24 last season, had a very good year. Little outburst for power. We talked about it the other day. Multiple seasons of sub 3% barrels, all of a sudden tripled. 7.9% last year. Ton of hard hit out of him. Excellent season. If he can repeat that kind of premium contact, there's no reason he wouldn't hit 15 plus home runs. 15, 30 kind of a year is definitely in the cards. Love him in the top spot there as a leadoff man. 47, fine. 32, probably a little better. William Contreras, Christian Yelich, veterans with a ton of upside, two of the better bats in this lineup. Yelich, still the power upside, has never stopped hitting the ball hard. Found the barrel again last season, 10.1% barrel to go with a 46.4% hard hit. Struck out a little bit more than we're used to last year, 25.9, but exchanging it for the power uptick seems reasonable. 18-4 the year before, 22-2 fair compromise the year before that. But he could maybe maintain 25 plus home run power while cutting strikeout back to the 20, 22 kind of range. Give him a little bit more upside, push a little bit more walk. You can see the walks were sub 10% last year as well. Luis Rengifo on this team now, utility type player, kind of miscast in that cleanup hitter role. Had a better year 2 years ago than he did last year. 541 pretty lost plate appearances last year, 9 homers, 10 stolen bases. Not exactly the idea of a priority, but cheap in the heart of this lineup does have its utility, and he fills multiple positions. Jake Bauers has power. Made good contact last year, 13.6% barrel and 45.6% hard hit. Hit 7 home runs in 218 plate appearances. Did not translate at all to the slash line, to the output, where it does show 356 xWOBA lurking under the surface. Even with the mediocre season, he got on base like crazy, 353 on base because he drew walks at a 14.7% rate in that 200 and change sample, and had a 114 WRC plus. So he was a good run creator and an asset when he was there. He just didn't translate all that premium contact into much home run output. But if he manages to this year, that's a potentially excellent bat to add to this team in a more full season. Sal Frelick gets on base and runs, 19 steals, 351 on base is kind of the definition of what this team looks to do, 114 WRC plus. I will note Sal overperformed with the bat last year. 288, 351, 405, hit 12 home runs. We probably see the power come back down. We probably see a little bit less average out of him. He doesn't strike out. He doesn't draw a walk. So we do get a lot of balls in play. 332 WOBA, but only a 299 xWOBA. Again, 320 is about league average. Garrett Mitchell, a little bit of premium contact from the left side, off to a good start if memory serves in a couple games so far this year. Just a cheap outfielder, just another outfielder type. David Hamilton, another guy I believe off to a good start after 6 home runs and 22 stolen bases last season, but sub Mendoza, just a 257 on base and a 60 WRC plus, not exactly paying the bills, and did not hit the ball hard and has not hit the ball hard in the show so far. And then Brandon Lockridge is very, very cheap in the outfield. He didn't do anything except steal 10 bases and 148 chances last year. I would say Brewers bats, Kyle Harrison. Rays bats, wouldn't touch Nick Martinez. He would rank at the bottom of that list. Hit the like button. Subscribe to the channel when you get a chance. Larry says, I did some sleuthing around. I discovered that Emac's middle name is Vito. So I think we found out his true identity. Nice. I did not know that. Eric Vito McPherson. You're going to say it like the Senator in Godfather 2. Angels and the Cubbies. Let's see if we got the Cubs lineup in. We do. Beautiful. Mikey Bush at the top of it. How about all that power that Michael Bush is showing in this spot? Just a great, great looking spot for the Cubs. Again, a 10-plus total in March. Kind of rare. Wind blown out at Wrigley, just one of those days. Nearly a 6-run implied total for the Cubs. They're going up against Ryan Johnson. 14 2/3 of relief work last year, struck out 22%. Did have, decent marks for Stuff Plus. Stuff Plus is something that works in a one-game sample. It's just measuring the physics of how your pitches travel through space and time and where they begin and arrive. Weak on the front end, but some good breaking stuff. Decent across all of those. Above average across all three of stuff, location, and pitching. We'll see where that goes, though. I mean, that is a small sample. He also gave up a 5.56% home run rate in those 14 2/3 innings, which is probably 2 or 3 home runs. So targetable, maybe a little upside in the longer term, Maybe he gets good as a starter. Did go 4 innings in his last start in spring, 5 innings the start before that. So I do expect if all goes to plan, he's kind of stretched out here. The 4 innings was just an appearance. The 5 innings was a start. 3 innings was an appearance. 4 innings a start. Just the way that spring goes, you're just giving guys innings here and there. But in the 5 inning one, it was an actual full start. He even got the win. It amounted to 23, striking out 23 of 88 hitters in 20 2/3 in spring ball, just to work with what we got current form wise. But it's all about the Cubs offense, and I think it's all about Cabrera. 25.5% strikeout rate over 25 starts, 132 2/3 last year. Several points above average stuff. Again, this is where we want to look, right? The fastball, good as it can be velocity-wise, pretty significantly below average stuff. That's where he makes his money on the breaking stuff. So the Cubs are trying to push him rather than leading with the fastball, making it you pounding the fastball. They're kind of scaling that back is the idea. Using it more to help set up because he does have an elite velo on the fastball. Using it more to set up the breaking stuff a little bit more effectively. It's just a new plan, and it could yield a lot of upside from a guy who was already all right. 30.8 CSW last season, 12.5% swinging strike rate last season, 3.66 ERA, 3.61 xFIP, 3.68 SIERA. So we're already dealing with a good pitcher who is primed to maybe take another step forward. He's facing a team that had a 26.6% strikeout rate last season. There are a ton of strikeouts on deck for him. There's also a lot of power facing him, though. You've got threats from Jorge Soler, who went deep yesterday, Joe Adell. Both those guys sub 10 in the home run model, though. Cabrera kept hitters to sub 10 degree average launch last season. Season before, right at 10 degrees in 20 starts, 96 1/3. Similar strikeout rate. He wrangled his walks last year, too. That was a big year-over-year change for him. First season, he was able to wrangle walks at all. That's what made him effective last year. Season before that, though, 7.6 degree average launch. So this is not a pitcher who gives up a lot of fly ball either. So it does impact the Angels' ability to hit home runs. You're still getting Neto and Trout above the magic number up at the top, and not bad numbers out of Soler and Adell. But against the last 4 days, these guys have been higher end than that. So threatening spot, but he has the tools necessary to get through this lineup and maybe carve them up a little bit. So that's why he's projecting top of the board today. Love him at 85 on DraftKings, 95 on FanDuel. Kind of works. If you're going against, you're probably going against one of the more highly owned pitchers of the day. Angels are drawing a 4.33 implied total. Zach Neto, great option. 26 homers, 26 stolen bases last year. Trout, 26 homers, a 359 on base. Diminishment around the edges, maybe, but maybe not. 32% strikeout was obviously a big jump, but a 15.6% walk rate, hit the ball extremely hard and reminiscent of years past. So there's some give and take in what version of Mike Trout we might get. So far this year, off to a great start, looks fully healthy, knock on wood. I think that's what we really need is just full health for a full season. And we'll see where it goes. 3,800, 3,000 for Nolan Schanuel. Just an average hitter. Put the ball in play, get on base. Excellent for a 353 on base last year. Had a 328 xWOBA, which is right in line with his actual 109 WRC plus. He's fine, but he's a non-priority bat in this lineup. You do not have to force Schanuel. I'd rather have Soler for a little bit cheaper. All the power upside you get out of him. Just a dozen home runs and 315 plate appearances. We're looking for a lot more than that out of Soler. Strikeout spiked, walks cratered last year, so it was problematic all year last year. Finished with an 88 WRC plus in a half season. He's still probably better than that, but we're on the back end with Jorge. Joel Moncada, mix and match quality, 4,000, 2,800. Dozen home runs and 289 chances last year. Substandard in terms of the front end of the slash line, but did get on at a 336 clip, 339 xWOBA under a 325. So more pedestrian, more average xWOBA than his above average WOBA last year, but did barrel the ball at a 14.3% rate. So there was good premium contact, did draw a bunch of walks. Effective, not priority in the middle of the lineup. Adell, 37 bombs last year. Everything else with Adell is kind of ugly. Avert your eyes from the slash line, but a 333 weighted on base under a 365 expected. So there's even more to give with Adell. We just need some of the non-home runs to be a little bit more impactful and get him to first base, get him to second base, etc. Josh Lowe, Logan O'Hoppe, and Oswald Peraza down the bottom of the lineup. Peraza, good start to the season. Former tippy-top prospect for the New York Yankees, kind of washed out over there as they decided to go with Anthony Volpe instead of Peraza. Bad decision, or potentially bad decision. He's in Los Angeles now, and this team over the past few seasons has picked off a couple of redemption projects like this. Peraza's still only 25. He's got power, mid to upper teens, 20 home run type power. He's got speed, 25 stolen base type speed, running aggressively in spring. He's still 6 bases during the spring. He's an interesting guy to watch. He's not going to be a priority at all, but at 2,300 filling second base, 2,400 filling short second or third on FanDuel, it's at least interesting, and it's at least maybe an effective wraparound back to the Neto, Trout, etc. if you're going that way. I like him better than Logan O'Hoppe. And then Josh Lowe is off to an okay start as well, but had a terrible year last year. Overall, my opinion of Lowe has always been like, he's okay. He can find you counting stats from time to time, but that's a mix and match bat, in my opinion. On the Cubby side, absolute masher in Michael Busch. 17.67. I believe that's outdoing everybody in today's home run model. Yeah, top of your board by clearing Aaron Judge by a point and change. Killer option. 34 long balls last year in 592 plate appearances, 17.1% barrel. Just showed elite power, 369 weighted on base, under a 378 xWOBA. So actually a little bit of misfortune in the numbers there. Could have been slightly better, 140 WRC plus. Alex Bregman on this team now 44, 31, 18 homers. Lost a handful of plate appearances, probably 100 and change plate appearances to 150, 495 ultimately. And what was a good season that probably would have been better had he made those plate appearances, would have been 20 plus home runs, and the whole thing would have just looked a little bit better. Overall, 125 WRC plus, though, nothing to complain about. 356 WOBA, over a 337 expected, though. Maybe overperformed slightly, but a guy who doesn't strike out. He was drawing walks at an aggressive rate last year that was up about 4 percentage points. Hit the ball squarely. Didn't barrel a ton, but never really has. More just solid line drive, hard hits that he can drive over the wall. So 44, 31, those are fair mid-market prices. I think he just gets popular hitting second in this spot on a 5.79 implied total team today. PCA in the cleanup spot at 52, 37, 31 homers, 35 steals. A lot better in the first half last year than he was in the second half. Those numbers could have finished outrageously higher, especially through the slash line, 247, 287, ouch, 481. Imagine where the stolen bases and the quality in general goes if he's getting on it better than a 287 clip. Probably quite a bit better than a 109 WRC plus, given the other numbers, but elite potential for counting stats, if nothing else. Kind of expensive, though. 12.6% barrel, 41.6% hard hit, 24% strikeout, just 4.5% walk. There are still flaws with PCA, and we saw them through a lot of the second half last year. So prices back up. A little bit concerning if you're going to this team. Makes it more difficult to roster them. Fortunately, the guy hitting in front of him, Ian Happ, 4,200, 3,200. 23 homers last year in another good season, 663 plate appearances, got on at a 342 clip. Tried to run 16% better than average and underperformed. 333 WOBA, under a 354 xWOBA. So a little bit more to give. Has always barreled the ball well. Has always had a good medium grade hard hit rate. Ton of ability to draw walks. Love Ian Happ, 12.63. He also happens to be the home run pick of the day. I didn't want to go with any of the other 3 guys up that way that are above the magic number. I almost went with my guy Dansby from down there. I think that's a great pick from the bottom of the lineup. And I got torn in between because Ian Happ's also one of my guys. But I love the option with Dansby Swanson. I tell you what, Michael Conforto is also kind of interesting down the bottom of the lineup at 9.51. And don't sleep on Carson Kelly if you just need a $3,400 catcher at 8.92 in the home run model. For those who have not been here before, we're looking for 10 as the magic number so you can see all the power upside for the Cubbies and just all the elite run potential here. Nico Horner, newly minted new contract, 29 stolen bases last year. Excellent for hitting for average, getting on base. Very, very low strikeout. You're just looking for balls in play out of Nico. He's just one of those guys. And as I've said about other guys hitting fifth, it's kind of a new way to structure a lineup here where we want to go, the leadoff premium bats on base through power and then kind of reset the table with this 5-hitter. Put a guy here who can hit for average, get on base, 345 on base last season, 109 WRC plus, maybe steal you a bag. He stole 29 last year. So a lot of upside in him. And then he hits in front of Carson Kelly, who's got cheap catcher power. Moises Ballesteros, who's potentially got cheap catcher power as well. Pair of home runs and 66 plate appearances, premium prospect. We'll see where that goes. I hate when catchers get doubled up for DraftKings. Makes it just, you lose a roster spot to work with overall. FanDuel, it matters less, but also just don't need the position at all on FanDuel. And then again, Swanson, 11.7% barrel, 47.7% hard hit last season, 24 homers, 20 stolen bases. People think he was bad last year. People have generally always underrated Dansby Swanson. That's why we always like him for DFS. That's a very interesting option again for very cheap at shortstop. 36.29 works from down lineup. And Conforto last year hit the ball very hard, was terrible for it. 199, 305, 333, just completely awful, and 83 WRC plus, but did hit the ball hard and always has. Lefty bat going up against a nothing righty, guy that nobody's going to want to roster. People don't like Michael Conforto. People don't want to go to a 9-hitter. He's cheap. He makes things work in this lineup, and historically has been better at getting on base. Right? Last complete season, not last complete season. 486 bad plate appearances last year, 488 the year before, just 309, but did hit 20 home runs, had a 212 ISO that season and a 112 WRC plus, so there was more quality there. And then 2 years back in 470 plate appearances, 334 on base. That was the old Michael Conforto. He used to be able to get on base. Now we'll see whether it comes back at all. But just considering that option, if he has a good game for it, even if those old skills come back for a night, now you're also talking, in addition to the slight power potential for cheap down there, you're talking about a potentially interesting wraparound guy back to the top, to the guys that you actually want to get to. So not a terrible DFS option. The Cubs lineup plays 1 through 9 today. Cubs bats, Cabrera, Cubs bats. Either way, they're the top 2 items on the entire slate. Top stack, top pitcher. Angels bats way above Ryan Johnson, but trailing both things Cubs. 5:30. All right. We're slightly behind the pace. Still shooting for the 6 o'clock bailout. Thank you, Mike. Vito has to be trolling. Oh, shit. That's what Larry was getting at. I didn't even make that connection. I forgot. In the time I was talking baseball, I forgot who the troll was earlier and what his name was. But yes, that's definitely EMAC. That makes sense now. Vito Fiore. Man, Fiore's Deli down in Hoboken coming after me after all these years? I've done nothing but talk nicely about their sandwiches. I hope not. If you're ever in Hoboken, Fiore's killer. Salta, what's going on, man? Good to see you as always. Let's keep forging ahead here, gang. Like button, subscribe button. Check out rotoscouts.com. $15 first month, $4 first week with promo code OD26. Go check out Rotoscouts. That gets you all of MLB, NHL projections, NBA projections for every single main slate. For MLB, you get all the pitcher and hitter projections. You get a snapshot of each game-by-game dashboard. You get what we're looking at right here on the screen just as images to start your day and go through on your own. You get the top stacks, power index, home run picks, probably leaving something out. A lot of bang for your buck. Everything's always under $1 a day, even when you're paying regular price. New York Mets, 495 implied total against Kyle Leahy. 22% strikeout pitcher from last season. Meh. Okay numbers. 3.18 ERA, but a 3.77 xFIP is in 85 innings of relief work. So kind of a long relief hybrid role. Got out to 5 innings in his last appearance, all full starts in spring. 2 4-inning starts and a 5-inning start. So we got to consider 5 innings stretched out. Above average stuff across 4 pitches in the arsenal. Not terrible there. Did rate out to above average stuff. Was decent at keeping the ball down. I just don't love the idea of throwing him into these New York Mets, even for a cheap SP2 price, when they're pulling a 5 implied total essentially against him, and they just have elite bats at least through the top 6 or top 5. I just don't want to target this Mets team with a lower end, kind of unknown commodity in a starting role. Clay Holmes, on the other hand, at 82, 93. Just an okay season, 3.53 ERA, but a 4.25 xFIP. 4.43 Sierra is also a little bit concerning. Again, that's the better indicator of future ERA. 18% strikeout against 9.3% walk. I was looking for a little bit more out of Clay last year. First year as a full-time starter, but we'll see. There is potential there. He was a formerly elite reliever with a ton of strikeout upside. So maybe a little bit of strikeout comes back. Get him to league average 20. Give me 22% strikeouts and give me a 7% walk rate. And we've got a lot more to work with. He's always been very good at keeping the ball down. 4.4 degree average launch in all those starts last season. Just amounted to a sub 2% home run rate once again. Good stuff across multiple pitches, including an elite slider. So there's a lot to like about Clay Holmes. And I really like this spot against this Cards lineup. 4.16 implied total for them. A lot of youth. There's some talent here, no doubt. My guy Jordan Walker's off to a very good start. Hopefully that continues all season long and fulfills the prophecy. 2,300, 2,600 down in the 6th spot for Jordan Walker. That would be a bad I'd look to if I'm going to the Cards. But overall, there's plenty of strikeout here for Clay Holmes to work with, and it's just not a ton of quality. So I think that's a reasonable spot. 82. It's priced up a bit at 93, given what the upside looks like, the absolute ceiling on his strikeouts looks like. But on this slate, that's a fair price. Mets bats against Leahy, absolutely fire away given that total, given the quality here, 52, 4,000. I've mentioned a couple times with Lindor. I do think Lindor ends up with fewer home runs than he's hit the last couple of seasons. We're probably looking more in the 22 to 25 range given the hamate bone thing, but still an elite option. Made it back in time for opening day. Stolen bases, on base, superstardom. And if he's just shy on home runs, those balls will land elsewhere and he'll hit doubles instead. So perfectly fine going to Lindor. Juan Soto at the top, just an utterly elite option. 43 homers, 38 stolen bases last year. 396 on base, 390 WOBA, and a 429 xWOBA. So with as good as he was, he underperformed. Had a terrible, if I'm remembering, like March and April, maybe the first part of May, and then really caught fire and became Juan Soto again. Fire away if you can afford him. The only problem there is the price. Bo Bichette, 46-33. Mets fans are already booing him. That's fun. Low strikeout, medium walk, a lot of balls in play. There'll be ups, there'll be downs because he's based on balls in play, but had a fantastic season last year. Found 18 home runs along the way, a 353 xWOBA under a slightly better actual number, so maybe overperformed, but not by much. 353 is still an excellent mark if that was his actual. 134 WRC plus. Absolutely can go there. Jorge Polanco for cheap is an interesting bat. 26 home runs, has always been decent hitter for power, doesn't really strike out that much, or didn't, strike out that much last year, which was a big improvement. 29.2 the year before, 25.7 the year before that, but has always put good wood on the ball. So for those prices, not a bad play. Lubob, 45-34. We all know what Lubob can do. We all know how bad he can be, but we also all know there's a superstar lurking in there somewhere. 14 home runs, 33 stolen bases in another injury-marred, disappointing year coming out of Chicago. Now in New York in a much, much better lineup. I expect big things if he can just stay on the field. Any given slate, you can absolutely go to him, especially priority bat for me if I'm going Mets today. Brett Baty, 36-29, lefty bat, not a bad option against a mid-board type righty, 12.8% barrel, 46.7% hard hit. Still kind of underappreciated in the middle of this Mets lineup. 18 homers, a 334 xWOBA, 111 WRC plus in 432 plate appearances last year. So that's a good season. Marcus Semien kind of aging out. We'll see what he's got left in the long run. I dropped him in the Dynasty League just because I was significantly over the salary cap and had to make a move. He should get picked up. He should be on fantasy teams. He should be played in DFS when you're going to this team, but he's probably not my first click in my first Mets lineup. If I get through and like stack 3 Mets, 3 somebody else, come back around to fill out the other spots after picking a pitcher maybe, and all I've got is that money in second base open, sure, he can be in the lineup, but I'm not prioritizing. What he is still good at is limiting strikeout, drawing some walks, and putting the ball in play. He's never struck the ball well, even when he was good. But run scoring, maybe not from the 7 spot as much as what he used to do from up at the top of the lineup. Maybe a little bit of stolen base potential from game to game. There's just not a lot left for Marcus Semien. Carson Benj off to a pretty good start. Prized prospect for New York. Nice to see him get started well. We'll see. Probably going to finish 12 to 15 home run kind of a year, mid-grade type rookie. But a nice story. 3,000, is affordable. Frank Alvarez has always hit the ball very, very hard. He's interesting. Cheap catcher option. I don't love the 9 spot, given the fact that we've already talked about multiple catchers hitting second. We've got another one on the other side of this game. But there's a lot of power there. 11 home runs and 277 plate appearances, 124 WRC plus. Got things on track in those 277 chances last year. If you go to the Cards, JJ Weatherholt, rookie for them, 3,300, 3,200. Seems pretty fair out of the top spot. Hit tool-oriented player. A lot of upside for him. Ivan Herrera, not a bad catcher option at just 3,800. He got cheap. 32 on FanDuel with outfield eligibility as well. 19 home runs and 452 chances. A lot of barrels, a lot of hard hits last year. 137 WRC plus. It's their best player. Alec Burleson, don't love him at first. Just another outfielder, really. In the outfield, fairly priced. He's fine. If you're going to this team, he should be rostered, especially hitting third. Lefty bat with some upside. But again, this isn't a spot where we're really looking to mine home runs. Nobody above even 4 the entire way down. So it's just not a great day to be Cardinals bats. But Burleson would be a priority if you go there. He doesn't really strike out. You'll get well-struck balls in play. 18 homers last season, a 124 WRC plus. Their only other positive WRC plus last year. Mason Wynn, overrated option at shortstop, 537 pretty forgotten plate appearances last year. Has never really hit the ball hard. Limit strikeout, balls in play. If you find success via BABIP, he'll be better than he was last year. Nolan Gorman does have a ton of power. Lost a lot of it last year. Came away with 14 home runs and 402 plate appearances, a terrible slash line. Lost a lot of barrel, 16.5% plus the last 2 seasons, down to 9.1 last year. Yikes. Still struck out at a 33.8% rate. So didn't trade it for anything. Terrible year. Look for him to bounce back. Already mentioned Jordan Walker. Love him at those prices. Just not a great spot against Clay. Maybe we get a double and a little bit of run scoring out of Walker, but just not a good day to go home run hunting. If I had to gun to my head say who's a good home run option from this lineup, he'd at least be top 3 on that list, if not the first guy I named from this team today, though. Nathan Church, Pedro Paz, Victor Scott, no thank you on down the line there. Church here because Lars Nootbaar's on the IL. Pedro Paz is just a mix and match guy. Hit 11 home runs last year. Victor Scott doesn't really get on base, but does steal bases when he happens to. 34 stolen bases. Not a good wraparound candidate given that 305 on base last year, though. Mets bats, Clay Holmes, Kyle Layton. Mets bats, Clay Holmes, cheap cards bats from the top, and including Jordan Walker at 6. And then Kyle Leahy, even though he's cheap, I would say. I don't like this spot a lot for him. Cue the Kyle Leahy CGSO. Red Sox, Astros, Ranger Suarez. I promised we would look at him. Last season did come away with a 3.20 ERA, slightly higher 3.61 xFIP, slightly higher than that 3.73 Sierra. So we're approaching 4, but we're under it. That was in 26 starts, 157 and a third innings. 23.2% strikeout, 5.8% walk. Nothing wrong with that. It's effective, but just a 17.3 K minus BB rate. Just a 95 mark from Stuff Plus. 95.9, call it what it is. Still 4 and change points below average. One pitch, significantly above average. One pitch above average, but it is significantly above average, I guess is the correct way to say that. It's a very average arsenal. Good location. Good overall pitcher. But I think probably a little to a lot too expensive at 10-6, going up against a fantastic Astros lineup that doesn't have strikeout among its best hitters at all. I just don't agree with the price, I think is the problem. On DraftKings at 87, fire away, that's fine. Absolutely fine. That is an appropriate price for Ranger Suarez on this slate. On FanDuel, I don't know. If it knocks the ownership down, that's the reason to go there. But this team, I mean, for one thing, look at all the righties they're loaded against. Jose Altuve, Isaac Paredes, Carlos Correa, Christian Walker. These are good righties and regulars in this lineup. And then Jordan Alvarez, one of the best hitters in baseball overall, also happens to be the best lefty-on-lefty hitter in baseball. So we don't take anything away from Alvarez here. Absolute superstar. Just under 200 plate appearances last year. Just kind of finding his form, getting back 273, 367, 430. He's outrageously good. Definitely want him 55-37. If people aren't going to the Astros, and if people are going around Jordan Alvarez when they do go to the Astros because of a lefty-lefty, all the more reason in my mind to go there. I think it's a reasonable upside spot against a pitcher that people will probably use, especially at the DK price. Altuve, we've talked about a little bit. That 300X WOBA is lurking under that 331 WOBA. He'll be lucky to repeat last season. 26 homers, 10 stolen bases. Speed is mostly gone, but did have a 113 WRC+. I can see him getting by as a changed kind of a hitter, but it'll be a lot less valuable for fantasy. Isaac Paredes just dumps balls into the left field corner for home runs. This is the right ballpark for him to do it. Ranger is okay at limiting premium contact, limiting power. Just a 31.1% hard hit rate and elite 86.5 miles an hour of exit velo. Something to work with, something to monitor there. That's why these home run marks are as low as they are. That is one positive attribute about Ranger. He is good at inducing weak and medium contact. So a little bit limited there. It does have an impact on a guy like Paredes. I wouldn't necessarily prioritize him maybe as strongly as I would in other home games, but if I'm already going Astros, he would be in the stack. He's not a reason to go Astros, but he would probably be included in my stack if I did. Carlos Correa is interesting. Very affordable third base shortstop eligibility, 13 home runs, squares the ball up regularly, doesn't strike out. Perfect guy to throw against a pitcher like Ranger. He fits the exact profile I'd be looking for to go against this starter. 338 xWOBA, 106 WRC+ last year. Christian Walker lost season last year, but still had 27 home runs. There's still a power bat lurking in there, 12.9% barrel, 46.1% hard hit from the right side. Cheap now. It's reasonable. If you can wrangle the strikeout rate back down at all, there'll be upside there. Cam Smith at 29-25 knows how to get on base, was mix and match quality through 493 plate appearances last year. Jake Myers, replacement level type outfielder, did slash 292, 354, 373. Created runs 7% above average last season. Didn't really do anything special along the way, but he's always okay for the cheap pricing. Jainer Diaz, I love as an option at catcher, even though he's hitting 8th, 3,000 cheap, 2,800 cheaper. 20 home runs in a down season last year, 256, 284, most concerningly that on base. But just an everyday in the lineup, every single day catcher who doesn't strike out, doesn't really draw a ton of walks, so he's always putting the ball in play, and he's always coming up with well-struck balls. Good hard hit rates each of those 3 years, even in the down season last year. Bryce Matthews, 47 pretty lost plate appearances last season, and that was all we had out of him. I don't think there's much profile there. Top of my head, I'm forgetting Bryce's profile. Let me pull him up real quick. 17 homers and 41 stolen bases in 2025 over almost 500 plate appearances in AAA. 23, a lot of strikeouts, but draws a lot of walk. It'd be interesting to see how that translates. Being able to draw the walks in the show is going to be what needs to translate for him get on base. I would say, just looking at the profile, probably somebody that you're looking to more for get on base, steal me a bag, create a run, maybe a light wraparound option, but probably deprioritized down there. On the Red Sox side, they're going up against Lance McCullers Jr. Lance, 52 and a third last year in 12 starts. Pedestrian strikeout rate, 14.6% walk rate. Ouch. Problematic. A 7.3 strikeout minus walk. Ouch. Did have a good positive rating by Stuff Plus. This is why you can't always just go by how the stuff looks, because if he's not sequencing, if he's not locating correctly, it's not going to matter how effective the stuff is. But that is at least an encouraging mark. Give up way too many barrels, give up way too many home runs last year, concerningly above all 3 of our indicators there as far as power against. So the Red Sox should be able to pull some power here against the righty. You've got their premium bat, their premium platoon bat, Willie Abreu, in play today, 46-28, 22 home runs in 417 chances last year, a big WBC. I think he already hit one in the regular season this year. It's just a decent price for such a good bat, especially that FanDuel $2,800 price. 46 on DraftKings is just right about where he ought to be. Before him in the lineup, though, their star, $5,600, $3,800 Roman Anthony. Great rookie season in 303 plate appearances last year, and a lot more to show. Us 372 xWOBA under a 376 WOBA. He is just immediately one of the best hitters in baseball. Kid's going to be good. 15.5% barrel, 60.3% hard hit in that half season last year. Trevor Story had a great year last year. For one thing, 654 plate appearances, just defied expectations over the last few seasons. 25 homers, 31 steals, 101 WRC plus, just a 308 on base. Those two things go together a little bit. Needs to push that walk rate back up toward 8% at least. The year before was in double digits at 10-4 in a smaller sample, but it's just nice to see him back. Counting stats galore. Great spot in the lineup. Hits ahead of Jarren Duran behind Roman Anthony. Love that spot. 53 is a little pricey for my money for Duran. 34 on FanDuel, slightly better. 16 homers, 24 steals. Good, not great option. 335 WOBA, slightly outperformed the 326 expected mark, but did have a 111 WRC plus, positive contributor the last few years, and can fill counting stats for fantasy across the board. Wilson Contreras diminished over the last few seasons, but still a lot of barrels, a lot of hard hit, fair amount of strikeouts, and didn't draw as many walks as he used to last year. Came away with just 20 home runs, still got on at a 344 clip, had a 358 expected WOBA underneath the actual mark, so a little bit more to give for him as well. 124 WRC plus. Good, not great option, but that's how he's priced, so perfectly fine. Caleb Durbin, I've talked about, contact-oriented hitter. I don't think we're going to see power flash this year. I think he hits fewer than last year's 11 home runs, playing half his games in Fenway. 18 stolen bases. Maybe that total goes up if he continues to get on base, do his thing up there, but I don't think he's the player that some people seem to think he is. I think he's just more of one of the, like I've said about a few guys, low strikeout, low walk, put the ball in play, maybe a table resetter who can ultimately hit 5-6 here and load things up for guys behind him. But I don't think he's a star by any means. It's not like he's priced like it, but people are treating him like one. Third base only also hurts him on DraftKings. Second base at least helps on FanDuel. Marcelo Mayer did hit the ball hard last year, but didn't see anything for it in 136 chances. When he's in the lineup, he's at a fair price, multi-position eligible, can go there. It's reliable enough upside. A lot of strikeout, low-end walk rate, though. Needs to improve in his consistency and his actual ability to put wood on ball. But when he does make contact, it's pretty good contact. Carlos Narvaez made good contact last year, 15 homers in an otherwise up and down kind of a year. And then Ceddanne Rafael is always good for counting stats and fills multiple positions at a fair price. This is challenging. I want to say Red Sox bats, Astros bats slightly behind, Rangers slightly behind that, and then McCullers, whatever, forgotten, down toward the bottom. I think I would put Suarez behind the two stacks. He's obviously on a short slate, going to be in play, and much more usable again on DraftKings than he is on FanDuel. Bear that in mind. 4 games ago, we are not going to make that 6 o'clock target. Yeesh. Lou Bob's not in the Mets lineup? Didn't I have that confirmed? Or did I not? I didn't have it confirmed. Okay. All right. No Lou Bob in that Mets lineup, so erase what I said from him to the Men in Black Blinky thing or the Jim Carrey movie Mind Eraser. All right. Let's hit the gas pedal a little bit here. So Ryan Weathers, elite upside, potentially. Excellent breaking stuff. Very good off-speed stuff. Rock and roll type of a fastball. He's never been able to put it all together, despite coming in, last year in a small sample of 8 starts. 13.2% swinging strike rate is elite, but a 22.3% strikeout is not. 3.99 ERA, a 4.03 xFIP are fine, but they're not elite. For 1.28 WHIP, gave up too many home runs in that small sample. But if the lefty can stay on the mound, I love his long-term upside. I do think the Yankees can help him unlock another level if he's able to do that. I don't know that we see it immediately here tonight, and I think we're locked at 5 innings on him. So don't love it at 8,000 on FanDuel with the probably not a quality start. 63 on DraftKings. Fire away if you feel like tackling the Mariners. They are at a sub-4 implied total today. Luis Castillo, I just think is in trouble for facing the Yankees, and I hate the 10-2 on FanDuel. 8,300 on DraftKings, fine. All systems go. You're expecting him to be around last year's numbers, right? 32 starts, 180 innings, 21.7% strikeout, 6.2% walk. This is just who he is last year. What he needs to do, especially tonight against these Yanks, is avoid all these barrels, all these hard hits, and all that exit velo. It only amounted to a 3.09% home run rate last year, but there is a lot of luck in that, I promise you. He gives up that kind of contact again, that is a 4+% home run rate guaranteed. He gives up that kind of contact tonight. The Yankees are hitting 3 or 4 home runs. Trent Grisham off the top. 8.54 in the home run model, pulling decent numbers for a guy who only cost 37.31. 34 long balls last year, got on at a 348 clip ahead of Aaron Judge a lot of the time. 64.44 for Judge, 53 homers. Nothing to dislike about Aaron Judge. 104% better than the average player last year by WRC+. Cody Bellinger's gotten cheap at 39 on DraftKings, 33 on FanDuel. That's a former MVP who hit 29 homers last year. It was okay in terms of the premium contact, 7.5% barrel, 37.9% hard hit, both actually below average, but slight improvements on his numbers the past few seasons. What he doesn't do is strike out, draws a fair number of walks, puts the ball in play very, very effectively. Came away with a 207 ISO, a lot of extra base hits, but you can see the overperformance right there. 347 WOBA against a 327 expected. Ben Rice is for real. Underperformed in getting on at a 337 clip, hitting 26 home runs last season, 244 ISO, creating runs 33% better than average. Yeah, underperformed. Premium contact is outrageous. 358 WOBA is fantastic, but a 394 expected mark, one of the best in the league. I think it was 6th or 7th or 9th, top 10. Jazzy Chisholm, 4,000, cheap, 3,500, fair, 31 and 31 last season. Looking to go 40-40 this year. Premium contact, excellent upside. Will strike out, will give you days of zeros, but it'll give you a lot more big scores over the course of time. Then it'll give you zeros. Love the upside for him. 126 WRC plus last season. If he's going to be that cheap at second base, that is a mandatory option if you're going to Yankees. FanDuel, again, 35 just kind of puts him in the mix, but he's one of their best players, so why wouldn't you want him? Jose Caballero, 32, 26. Fills 4 positions on FanDuel, 2 key positions on DraftKings. Excellent for stolen base upside. Got on at a 339 clip last year. He will create a positive amount of runs if he's a regular doing that in the Yankees lineup this season. Just a player who creates havoc on the base pass. I would actually love him hitting 9th if I could use him as a wraparound. Move Wellesley up, McMahon up. McMahon should hit 7. Move Wells to 8 and let Caballero hit 9th. Get him back around in front of the power up at the top of the lineup. 1 through 9 plays for the Yankees, and if it's backups and substitutes, they also are very much in play for cheaper prices. The Mariners side, Robbie Refsnyder, we get to talk about him. He led off the other day against a different lefty. Specialist, platoon specialist, 3,300, 2,500. Came away with a 12.3% barrel, 52.3% hard hit, getting the lion's share of those 209 plate appearances against left-handed pitching last season. Hit 9 home runs, but got on at a 354 clip. Creator runs 28% better than average. This is what he does for a living. Very affordable. If he's in that spot, you can definitely include him in your Mariners stacks. Just looks like maybe not a great day to be Mariners bats. Sub 4 implied total. Surprising and concerning for the upside of the stack. Pitcher-friendly ballpark, but again, wouldn't stun me if the Ryan Weathers didn't get out to a great start. Booney pulls him early, get into the Yankees bullpen, and then it's anybody's game. Cal Raleigh, slower start than last year. Like I said the other day, I promise he's not getting 60 home runs again, but I do like him to hit 40 plus. Monster season last year, totally outrageous, unexpected. 392 WOBA, but a 371 xWOBA. That's still an elite xWOBA, but you can see what I'm talking about right there. Not going to repeat, but still excellent. 58, little expensive. 39, little expensive, but you can average that down with some of the guys around him. Julio, 5,036, perfectly in line. 32-30, another 30-30 season out of him. Kid's a star outfielder, just needs the 100% consistent season from wire to wire. Josh Naylor, 43-31, totally fair for a guy who went 20-30 last year. Randy Arosarena's got that same ability, 27-31 last year. Look at all these guys with massive home run and stolen base combinations. This is such a good fantasy team. That's why I'm never totally willing to take him off the board, even at a sub-4 total. Brendan Donovan's an ideal fit for this team. Utility guy, can play basically every position in the infield. Affordable in both sites. Solid, not a standout, but solid enough for hard hits. A little bit of barrel rate upside. Hits for average, gets on base, helps to reset the table for guys behind him. Unfortunately, in this lineup, that amounts to Victor Robles, Leo Rivas, not exactly killers in terms of offense, in terms of mashing. And then Cole Young, we'll find out. Little ability to potentially hit the ball hard out of him, but cheap options, mix and match quality players. Victor Robles could get on, steal you a base. Did not do so last year. Leo Rivas just filling time until JP Crawford comes back. So they're okay at the bottom. I think that's part of the underwhelming implied total here is we're pretty weak through the final third of this projected lineup, but those five are great. This is an effective bat, depending on how they put it together for us. Yankees bats. Ryan Weathers, because the price is so much cheaper. Mariners bats. Luis Castillo. This is just silly. She loves Meech. Yeah, Meech, what's going on? Interested to hear your take on Tigers D-backs when you get to it. We'll get there. I promise you. What's that? Next one? Yeah, next one. I like Soroka. If you got to go, I do like Soroka.
I'm not really sure how to help you with that.
I like Soroka, not whatever sounded like her name. I don't know if you guys heard that. The Alexa in the corner just went off. I do think that Soroka has upside. A lot of potential for strikeouts. Really worried about the lefty power in that lineup, though, for him. Before we get to that, though, Landon Roop, 74, 82, 21.4% strikeout over 106 and 2/3 in 22 starts last year. Pitched to a 3.80 ERA, 4.11 xFIP, increasing Sierra. Those are ones where, even though they were higher and good indicators last year of what he was pitching like last year, it's a developing young pitcher. So we do, potentially like him to beat those marks, maybe find a little bit more strikeout, give up a little bit less in terms of walk last year. Needs to find more swinging strikes, just 9.8% swinging strike rate. Very effective, keeping the ball under a 10-degree average launch, inducing weak and medium contact, just 36.5% hard hit, 88.4 miles an hour of exit velo. A lot of the time when we see guys giving up barrels, but keeping the ball down on a low launch angle, they're giving up a ton of hard hit and exit velo. It's like what I talked about with maybe Fromber the other day, or Jose Soriano probably, where he's keeping the ball down, but it could still be a rocket through the infield. You didn't even get that really with Roop. This is a lot of weak and medium contact. Limited home runs to 2.31% when some of those barrels did get away from him. Not going to blow anybody away with strikeout stuff, but a potentially interesting run limiter going up against a team that is not really elite. I love Manny Machado. Fernando Tatis Jr. is a superstar. He was a little bit diminished for power output last year and the year before, but still excellent in the long term. Jackson Merrill, we'll find out, just 16 homers in a diminished season last year in his return from injury. And then what do you have around it? You have Jake Cronenworth in the leadoff spot. He's good at getting on base, set the table for Tatis Machado. He's part of my stack if I'm stacking Padres, but he's not a reason to go there. Xander Bogaerts stole 20 bases last year, but barely held on to 104 WRC plus when it was all said and done. Gavin Sheets was all right, 19 home runs, but he was a waiver wire type guy last year. Ramon Laureano had a good season, 24 homers. 281, 342, 512, kind of unexpectedly. 231 ISO, 138 WRC plus. Are we expecting him to repeat that? Not totally sold. Nick Castellanos has been mostly lost outside of the occasional home run. You get a big celebrity or something kicks the bucket, you can always rely on Nick Castellanos. I don't think that's happened today. Somebody check the news. Luis Camposano in the last spot, he's at least the mid price. Better ways to one-off catcher, but you do get him at mid price. Went 0 for 27 last year. So it's a kind of a lineup. There's no these two guys and then a lot of filler. Merrill maybe makes it those three guys. 2 years ago, it was definitely 3. We'll see what Merrill is. But I'm not worried about the spot for Landon Roop. I just think we land solidly in the middle, kind of like he's projected. So for 74, it's effective enough SP2. 82 works on FanDuel. He's getting a lot of ground balls. We could get through 6. Only got out to 4 innings in the spring. That's why I'm saying could, because he would have to be really efficient. And even then, I don't know that they let him go do it. But there's always that potential for ground ball pitchers to just buzz through a couple of innings, get out on weak contact in a couple spots, and then you're mid-5th inning, 65 pitches thrown, and maybe you could squeeze it out. And if that happens at the 82 on FanDuel, it's all right for the quality start. Even without it, maybe in play, but he doesn't have the strikeout upside that I would want in that case. Walker Buehler mostly lost last season, 4.93 ERA, 5+ xFIP in Sierra, 16% strikeout against the 10+ walk. I think we're passing on Walker Buehler. On the Giants side, Young-Hoo Lee in the projected leadoff spot, 33.29, fair price, 8 homers, 10 steals, a 107 WRC+. He's an adequate line drive-oriented player. Low strikeout, low walk, so he's putting balls in play. Doesn't hit particularly hard, but if he finds some BABIP, finds some on base ahead of Matty Chapman, that'll be a big boost for this lineup. I don't love the idea of Young-Hoo Lee and Luis Ariz on either side of Chapman, but what they're looking for is get on base, clear the bases, get on base, clear the bases with the 4-man combo leading down to Devers there. So I get what they're looking at. It's just don't love having both those guys in the lineup. Ariz, former batting champ, definitely excellent at hitting for average. Doesn't do a whole hell of a lot else, but a 104 WRC+. He's fine. Chapman hits the ball extremely hard, 21 home runs, a 340 on base. Excellent way to fill third base for a fair 3,000 against this kind of lost pitcher. Devers is a star, had a monster year last year. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise. We talked about that the other day. 365 with 367 expected, 135 WRC+, still hit 35 home runs, got himself traded from Boston to San Francisco. Monster barrel premium contact was right in line with where it was previously. It's people who think he had a bad year last year are completely misguided, including those on baseball broadcasts. Elliot Ramos, 38, 3,000. A lot of power there, 21 home runs and 695 chances. More compiled that total over time, but definitely a lot of hard hit, a lot of barrels over the last couple of seasons. I like his upside going forward, and those are cheap prices for his potential. Willie Adames ultimately found it last year, finished the year 30-12, 108 WRC+, but it was a long struggle to get there and a lot of bad DFS days along the way. Harrison Bader, Patty Bailey, Casey Schmidt, mix and match pieces. All Bader's probably your best option down in that group. Little ability to hit for average, come away in big spots, 17 homers and 11 stolen bases. Most of what he does is not actually real, but he does it time and time again. So that's where he's at. Monty said Serial X Soroka too. Noted. Yeah. My personal favorite stack today. I mean, if nobody's playing the Yankees at that total against Castillo, they rated out great for me. The duh answer though is the Cubs, right? Nearly a 6-run total. They rate first by points on FanDuel, second by value, first by points, third by value on DraftKings, first by home runs, and first by Vegas total, going up against the 16th ranked overall pitcher by fantasy projection. So it'd be a little foolish not to call them out. The Dodgers by that token. The Blue Jays against Tomo Sugano. There's so many good spots. But favorite would, I think, have to be one of those 4. By run total, the Yankees are only 16th at that low 4s total, but we just saw all the upside. So if they get low owned, that lower ownership than the 3 much more obvious choices, I think would drive the Yankees toward more favored nation type status. Did we do everything in this game? I think we did. I would say, since I don't love either of these lineups in this spot, Landon Roop, Giants bats, Padres bats, Walker Buehler. Nothing really of priority in this game, though. Tigers D-backs was just on request. Meech, here we are. So 446 implied total for the Tigers. Again, I am worried about that spot if I'm going to Mike Soroka. But Soroka, maybe a little bit better than advertised. 25.2% strikeout rate in his 17 starts, 89 innings in his return to more regular action last year. Mostly starts, then some bullpen work late in the season. 4.55 ERA, but a 4.20 xFIP under that, and an even better 3.77 Sierra. closing in, you're closing in, 3/4 of a run difference between the ERA and the Sierra. And again, Sierra, the better indicator of future ERA. Stuff is just average. Was below average across the board in stuff, location, and pitching plus last season. So we're kind of clinging to a little bit of faith here. But I've seen him do it. Multiple 8 strikeout games through the first half of last year. Was better out of the gate last season. Had an outrageous spring and picked up a little bit of buzz last season. Pitched in the WBC this spring. Made, I think, 3 spring starts, the last of which was really ugly. 4 spring starts, the last of which was really ugly. Prior to that, though, after the WBC, he came back, he faced the White Sox for 5 innings in spring, faced 17 hitters, 1 hit them, and came away with 8 strikeouts. So that's the one I want to focus on. Tigers, a very, very good lineup that we're going to use quite a bit for DFS, already have used quite a bit for DFS. You can see the power that this team is showing, and that's going to be a problem. Several guys in the 8s and 9s, 2 guys above the magic number here for upside. Soroka last year, okay, 6.7% barrel was saving grace, 40% hard hit, 89. Nothing to worry about here, just kind of average through that, but does struggle with left-handed power. And Kerry Carpenter, a little bit of Colt Keith, certainly Riley Green, very, very good left-handed power there. And then Spencer Torkelson's just good power against anybody. It's a little bit of concerns, but I think it's on the board 75, 71. I'm going to have it. So why not? JV, 77, 9,000. 9,000 feels a little aggressive on the FanDuel slate, especially against the Diamondbacks lineup coming in with a 4.64 implied total. Definitely give me the Diamondbacks ahead of Justin Verlander. 20.7% strikeout last year. Did come away with a significantly above average mark, 106.2 by Stuff Plus. Still does have very, very good stuff. It's just not quite as good as it used to be. 11% swinging strike rate, just a 12.84 K minus BB. Pitched to a 3.85 ERA, but a mid-4s xFIP, mid-4s Sierra. A lot of guys on base, a lot of opportunity last year. Just, I don't want to say washed because he was effective enough, right? This is not a bad season. This is not a good season. There's not a lot of great DFS results in there. For this price, it's fine to use him if you want to. If he's in the mix for your SP2 spot, fine. At this price, it's bonkers. It's a weird FanDuel pricing today. If you're going to the Tigers, prioritize Kerry Carpenter and Riley Green, and then you're building in squares around them, right? Colt Keith, probably a sliver more upside just for the lefty-righty thing than Glaber, but Glaber between the two, currently the better hitter. Glaber, we've talked about it already, 363 xWOBA last season, was tremendous under the surface and very good and underappreciated on the surface. Created runs 13% better than average, hyper affordable at second base, hitting between all these lefties. Carpenter hit 26 long balls last season. Riley Green hit 36. Spencer Torkelson from the right side blasted 31. All of those guys double-digit barrel rates. All of those guys mid-40s hard hit rates with the potential for a little bit more. Premium run creators. That is a great 4-man stack if you can work your way there. It's a great 5-man stack if you want to throw Kevin McGonigal into the mix at just 3,800. Might be the best player on this team now. He's clawed his way up to 2,700 on FanDuel. Started at the dead min. Was excellent the first 2 games. Definitely a priority bat at those prices if you're going to this team. And then they finish out with Dylan Dingler, who can hit the long ball from the catcher spot. 13 of them in 469 chances last year. Premium barrel rate and hard hit rates for a lower end cheap catcher. But he's hitting in the 7 spot. We've got some more competitively batting ordered catchers to work with today. But if you're going to Tigers, he's definitely in the mix for a little bit of upside, and he won't be nearly as owned as the other players are. Parker Meadows, a little power, a little bit of speed, 213 pretty bad plate appearances last year. Avi Baez, mostly disinterested down toward the bottom. Effective to start last year, trailed off throughout the season. If you're going to D-backs against JV, which seems like a good idea, Ketel Marte, Geraldo Perdomo, Corbin Carroll off the top. Carroll, like Lindor, I expect is going to be diminished this year because of a hamate bone injury in terms of the power output. But like Lindor, I think it translates into just other things for this season. Doubles, plenty of stolen bases, plenty of run creation. Probably see him leading off a little bit. Given that, maybe we slide Marte down, reorient the lineup around him, or Perdomo in the you know what I mean. Marte and Perdomo both very much in play. 45, 48, pretty cheap on DraftKings. Fairly priced at 35 and 37 on FanDuel, but those are higher relative prices. Marte, 28 home runs in 556 last year, and then Perdomo, 20 home runs, 27 stolen bases, even drove in 100. We don't care about RBIs and runs because they're totally non-predictive counting stats, but 98 runs scored and 100 RBIs does score you fantasy points. 138 WRC plus last season. He was tremendous. Don't fully expect a repeat, but he is good at hitting for average. He's good at getting on base, and he's got a little bit of power to go with some stolen base potential. Gabriel Moreno is a really interesting catcher. Hits the ball hard, 3,500 cleanup spot behind all that elite ability to get on base. You got guys getting on base at an average 369 clip in front of you. You're going to have some opportunities to drive them in. So love that spot if Gabriel Moreno's sitting there or anybody else. Anybody not named Nolan Arenado or Carlos Santana anyway. Pavin Smith's interesting, 33-27. Solid slash line from last year in a partial season, 123 WRC plus most notably. Hits the ball squarely, draws a lot of walks, needs to cut the strikeouts back to the sub 20%. Spiked at 31.9 last year in a weird marker. Arenado's dead, lost at the plate, 33-27. That swing is gone, not coming back. Carlos Santana's right there with him. Santana, neither one of them strikes out. Santana draws a little bit more walk, probably the ultimately more interesting hitter between the two, and comes in cheaper. But give me Pavin Smith over him most of the time at first base. Alec Thomas, Jordan Lawler, mix and match quality down the bottom. Lawler, a lot of prospect pedigree, hasn't delivered fully in the show yet, but Deadman Price is kind of interesting to just help you average down these three, if nothing else. And if he's getting on base ahead of those three, the second, third, and fourth time through the lineups, makes him more compelling. That brings me down, call it those three, and I'll throw Moreno into the mix, get a catcher for a cheap price in there. So now my average price for that 5-man on DraftKings is just $4,200 and includes Marte, Carroll, and Perdomo. So that's a really powerful way to average that right down. Granted, if you just 5-man it off the top, you're not crazy higher. It's $4,460. But if you do it the other way, you're getting away from everybody who just auto builds it straight through there. And you're getting to a lower overall price that might buy you a pitcher upgrade compared to all the people who are just going through there. So that's why it pays to consider these guys from down here. Consider the creativity of, the first time he's the 9th man, but the second time through the lineup, he hits directly in front of those three guys. And the third time, and so on and so forth. A lot of value there. I think that's an interesting way to build with Diamondbacks today. Larry blames Kate Upton for the diminishment for Justin Verlander. I'm going to throw him out there. Michael Soroka for the cheap prices. What the hell? Diamondbacks bats, Tigers bats, Justin Verlander. It's a danger spot. Don't come here crying tomorrow, Vito, if Michael Soroka gets lit up today. I am fully acknowledging that is not a safe spot, but I think it's an interesting one. We're here for interesting spots. In no way are we trying to predict what happens. We're trying to project what should happen, what could happen, what might happen, what's likely to happen. And then we're trying to capitalize on the most interesting spots. Within that, Parker Messick, very interesting starter. I just hate this spot for him. 78, if you want to use him today, at 78 on DraftKings, go for it. It's fine. He'll be low owned for it, considering the Dodgers and the 5.21 implied total on the other side. At 99 on FanDuel, that really stretches credulity. But the kid was really good in 39 2/3, 7 starts last season. 19.39 strikeout minus walk, but had a 31.5% CSW, 11.5% swinging strike rate, 2.72 ERA with excellent xFIP and Sierra. They're higher, but still excellent. Premium prospect for them. Substandard in terms of stuff across the full arsenal. Excellent locator. Really, really interesting, mid-90s type fastball type pitcher. I just hate the matchup at that price on FanDuel, and I don't love it for him on DraftKings. It's probably not going to work out. First start of the year, if he gets through 5, you're probably calling it a day. Did go again, though, we talked about it at the top of the show, in his next to last spring start against the Royals, went 5 2/3, faced 25 hitters. So the depth is locked in. It's not crazy if all goes great to get that 6th inning. If we're in this territory, coming around for that, maybe. If we're in this territory, probably not. Roki Sasaki at 8,000 at 7,200. 36 1/3 last year. Finished the year with a 17.4% strikeout, 13.7% walk. Showed us a little bit of his talent late in the season and into the playoffs out of the bullpen. This spring, in 4 starts, was completely awful. 15.58 ERA over 8 2/3. Did not go more than 3 1/3. You're really taking your life in your hands if you're going to Roki Sasaki today. 8,000, 72. The price is kind of okay for what maybe he is or becomes, but I don't necessarily think we get it. And I don't necessarily think we're going to get the innings. His Guardians lineup's not great, but the top end of it is pretty good, especially with Chase DeLauder mashing the world. And it's, at the top end anyway, not a great target for strikeouts. So he's going to have a lot of trouble getting through Quan, DeLauder, and Ramirez, and then power Adam and Zardo, but you pick up strikeout there. And then there's plenty of strikeout for him through the back end. It's not entirely safe, but it's not a collection of great hitters through the back end here. Naylor, Hoskins, Schneemann, Arias, and Rocchio. Arias hits the ball very hard, strikes out a lot. You could say the same about Schneemann. You could say the same about Rhys Hoskins with a little bit of added walk. And maybe Bo Naylor. Naylor's probably the least reliable in that group. But not a one of those guys is somebody you necessarily target. Like, oh, boy, I could play Rhys Hoskins today. Dozen home runs last year in a greatly diminished season. Dozen for Schneemann, 11 for Arias. Only Rhys Hoskins was above average via WRC+. The other guy's tragically below down at the bottom. So anybody who goes Guardians here at a sub-4 total is going to be focused on the same 4 hitters. I don't think it really makes the Guardians much of an appealing late-night surprise kind of a stack because everybody's going to have these guys. They're okay. Steven Kwanitz for average, maybe gets on base. DeLauder, again, destroying the world. One of 2 players with 4 home runs in his first 3 games or 3 home runs in his first 4, whatever it was. It's him and Trevor Story. Absolutely crushing the beginning of the year. And it's mostly real. Kid's very, very good. It's not going to keep that pace up, obviously. Jose Ramirez, superstar, multi-category contributor. Kyle Manzardo, again, inexpensive power. 4,200, 3,000. Nothing wrong with those prices. I just don't love the idea of them being the contrarian team. I don't like this matchup on either side. Dodgers lineup, obviously you can go there even against a good pitcher like Messick. He was, young, developing lefty. Shohei Ohtani, Kyle Tucker, much like Jordan Alvarez, when they were on the same team, it was back-to-back. If Alvarez is the best lefty-lefty hitter in baseball, Kyle Tucker's probably the second best lefty-lefty hitter in baseball. I didn't check from last year's numbers. Forgive me if that wasn't necessarily true last year, but throughout his career, he has been absolutely fantastic against fellow lefties. 22 homers, 25 steals last season, 136 WRC+. Joins this lineup. You expect big things from Tucker full season. Mookie Betts at 47-41 totally works for the price, for the fit, for the upside. 20 homers. I like him to find a little bit more power, a little bit more consistency as well going through this season, fully healthy. Will Smith, dynamite catcher, 42-36, 17 homers last year. Tremendous slash line, got on at a 404 clip. Creator runs 53% better than average. Freddie Freeman, I talked about it the other day. I love the Kyle Tucker acquisition up here to be able to slide Freddie down. Not hide his diminishment, but maybe help him not be as diminished as he might otherwise have been, being with so much riding on him in the 2 spot. So love that spot for Freddie. 4,500, 3,500. Fantastic DFS asset until further notice. Teoscar Hernandez, tons of power upside from the right side, fills out outfield for a fair price. 25 homers last year, has more power to give than that. Only had a 324 xWOBA, but it was slightly better than the 315 WOBA last season. Down season for him last year, still had a lot of barrels, good amount of hard hits. Santiago Espinal, mix and match quality guy, can steal you a bag, but not much to see here except a very cheap price in the Dodgers lineup. Him, Miguel Rojas, you put those 2 guys together, you can average down another 3 guys and get 2 reasonable prices on your stars. Like if you sacrifice 2 spots to do that and then just went Shohei, Tucker, and Mookie, it's competitive. Now I'm only paying $43.40 a spot for a lineup that includes Shohei Ohtani, Kyle Tucker, and Mookie Betts. It just also happens to include Santiago Espinal and Miguel Rojas if they're in the lineup. Look for Alex Freeland. See, I forget what hand he is. Is he lefty? He's a switch hitter. Alex Freeland might end up in the lineup. He's an interesting hitter. Got off to a good start over 2 games so far. Just kind of several guys rotating through these spots right now for Los Angeles. So if he's in the lineup, he's a relatively high-end young kid for this team. So maybe you look his direction. Probably like him better than Espinal. Probably like him better than Rojas. And then Andy Pajes hiding down the bottom of the lineup. 27 homers, 14 steals last year, a 113 WRC+. Little bit of inconsistency masked by some of the counting stat numbers. Little bit of underperformance in terms of the premium contact. But a very quality bat to find lurking in the 8 spot for these prices. Love Pajes. Dodgers bats, Parker Messick. Guardians bats, Roki Sasaki. You could do that the other way around with the pitchers if you really wanted to. I just happen to like Messick a little bit better despite the bad matchup. And that is it, gang. Top to bottom, left, right, center. Oh, Larry had the lineup there. All right, so Pajes slides up. Max Muncy, who I didn't have in there. Max Muncy, love Max Muncy. Great ability to get on base. Tons of power from the left side. Masher extraordinaire. Miguel Rojas, fine. Dalton Rushing instead of Will Smith in the lineup. Rushing's another guy, young catcher, a lot of prospect pedigree coming up through the system. We'll see what he turns into as a bat. Catchers are a little bit difficult sometimes to nail down just because of how much the actual catching gets weighted into real baseball prospect rankings sometimes. But rushing's supposed to have a decent stick. So it doesn't diminish the Dodgers in any way. Let's put it that way. Last looks at the pitching board just real quick because I do got to get out of here at 6:18. We overshot by a little bit. Got to get out of here and update basketball. God knows what's going on there, and build some baseball lineups. There's your pitching board. It is an ugly one. Eddie Cabrera up toward the top. Cody Ponce, great matchup. Don't trust it. Don't love the FanDuel price. 7,600 is definitely investable on DraftKings. Hate Ranger Suarez at that price against those Astros, but he's definitely, that's not the wrong spot for Suarez to project to on this slate. I just don't like him for that money in that spot. Maybe gets through by suppressing the Astros offense. Luis Castillo, you could say a lot of the same things about him on both sites against the Yankees. It's just, do I really want to go to a diminished statistically average version of Luis Castillo at this point? If you go around the spot, fine. You don't have to go to the Yankees because you avoided Castillo. It's just feels dicey, but that is, again, the right, just kind of mid-board projection on a more full day. There's another, 8 good pitchers, not, length of list wise, but just projected above these guys. Mid-20s is not usually our second, third pitcher on the board. Soroka, high danger, 71.75, investable, cheap spot. Lopez, I don't dislike, 81.76. I think there's enough to get by, at least in these mid-20s type frames against Atlanta, and some strikeouts. Weathers, wild card, love the 6,300 on DraftKings, in the mix for some SP2 shares. Harrison, like the upside, 7,000, very interested on FanDuel, 79, not bad on DK. Holmes is the last, I think, of like our go-to options here. Definitely don't mind the 82 on DraftKings. 93 is a little pricey for my tastes on FanDuel, but we could book the quality start there as potential. Roop is playable. Elder is playable, but I'm showing a lot for the A's, and I really dislike most of those options, either for matchup or for talent or for both. Messick's really the only one that I would call out for talent, and that matchup and FanDuel price are just atrocious. Ugly pitching slate, gang. Cubbies nearly a 6-run implied total. Home run pick of the day came out of that game. It was Ian Happ. Everything else is up on the website. I will update confirm lineups in the next little bit. Let me get out of here. Get NBA updated. Website, rotoscouts.com. Promo code OD26. $4 first week or $15 first month on anybody's new subscription. You don't have to be brand new to the site. Just has to be a new pickup. So go check that out. Always under $1 a day. That includes everything baseball, NBA projections, and NHL projections, all for one price, all in pricing under $1 a day. You guys absolutely rock. One last time, like button, subscribe on your way out the door. Appreciate you. We'll be back tomorrow, hopefully, for a better timed and better paced show. Appreciate you. Good luck out there tonight, gang. Somebody go win something. We'll see you tomorrow.